Lindsay, what have you been up to today?
Oh, what have I been up to? Just typical Friday morning things, Aubrey. Today's Friday. I was making a choice of the movie I'm going to see tonight. I love to go to
Ooh,
the
what
movies.
did you choose?
Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's set in Africa and it has,
Oh.
what's the name? Oh, she's such a famous actor right now, really well known. I think she
Is it
was
like a
in,
thriller? I saw a preview for
yeah,
a thriller in Africa. I can't remember what
yes,
it's
I think
called.
that's it. I
Ooh.
think that's it. I'll report back. I'll let our
It
listeners
looks
know.
so good. Idris
Yes.
Elba's in it, right? I
Yes, that's it.
think,
That's who it is.
yes,
Yes.
he is. I love him. He's
Yes.
amazing. He's so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I love going to the movies. It's my one of my favorite things to do.
Yes, me too. Well, I asked you that because we had a listener question that relates to this because I also have a ton to do every Friday. I feel like I'm cramming in so
Yeah.
much to do, right? But that
Yep.
being said, I might just end up taking a nap in spite of all the things I have to do. And so, this answer, right, to say, that being said, I'm going to do this, is related to this question.
Oh,
But
so good.
first, we want to share some names of Android users, right,
Oh,
Lindsay?
yeah. We can do that now. Sure, totally. So I want
Yes.
to say thank you to our listeners. Guys, we have an Android app. And if you don't know, you can go deeper with what you learn on All Ears English through this app. You see transcripts, you can tap on words, save keywords to your list. I want to say thank you to those who reviewed us. We actually had a lot of really good reviews, Aubrey, in September.
Awesome.
So thank you to Daniel Rodriguez, Dominic Andrew, Samira Mazeri, Bashir Azro Ishki, Arwa Awami, Yasin Rajabi. Guys, thank you. And make sure you go and try that app. allearsenglish.com/app. We have iOS and Android. And if I see your name as a reviewer, we'll try our best to say thank you to you on the show. Right, Aubrey?
Yes, thank you guys for rating and reviewing. We love it so much. We read those and it means a lot to us. We appreciate the thanks. We love the questions. So, yes, if you haven't yet,
Yes.
go rate us, leave a review.
And I'm super excited that we're getting into what we're getting into today because I think our listeners hear this a lot, right?
Yes,
Having
right.
said that being said, but maybe they're not quite sure yet how to use it, right?
Exactly, right? So I'll read our question. It's from Zhaojian Zhu. Said, "Dear hosts, thank you a lot for another amazing episode. I have a question about these two phrases, that being said and having said that. People seem to use those two phrases at the beginning of sentences. Is there any difference between these two phrases? When do you use them? I would appreciate your help greatly." I agree, Lindsay. I know you guys listening have heard these and you might not be sure what exactly is the grammar or is there any difference? So we're going to dive into this.
Ooh, this is really good stuff. And I want to say thank you to Zhao Junju. Zhao Junju has been a listener for a long time. I recognize the student's name. I think we've answered some of their questions in the
Awesome.
past. So thank you to our longtime listeners.
Yes, so awesome. All right, so the meaning is the same here, right? And we
Yeah.
also shorten it to that said, just those two words. That said, blah, right? These
Yes.
really spice up your language and add interest. We definitely recommend you use them. Natives use them all the time. They're also useful
Yes.
for business English, right, Lindsay? All the time.
Oh, this is fantastic. This is gonna bring our listeners to that level of connection that we want.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I want to also point out that they're very useful for the IELTS exam. If you're preparing for IELTS, you have to have linking phrases in order to get a 7 or higher for both writing and speaking. And
Yes.
sometimes it's hard in speaking to know which ones you can use. These are perfect. But you also
Yes.
want to keep in mind that because it says that being said, you shouldn't include them in an essay. So if you guys are preparing for IELTS, be sure to follow IELTS Energy. 2 episodes every week. We share everything you need to know about IELTS.
I love it. So good. Yeah. It's so important to use linking words on IELTS. We have templates for that in our course, right? We have all sorts of time that we spend talking about linking words because that's what brings your ideas together. Otherwise,
Exactly.
there's no coherence in what you're saying. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, and that's a
Right?
skill you're being tested on these exams. Can you be coherent with your ideas? Can you link them like a native would?
Yeah. And then once you pass your IELTS, you're being tested in the real world, right? If
Right,
you're-
exactly. It
yeah.
continues, right? Then you're speaking English and trying to sound native. Okay, so
Yes.
we use these 3 different ways, right? So we are going to teach all 3 to you guys today.
Okay, so let's get into it. All right, number one. So, what is the same Like, what does it mean here?
Yeah, so here it means the same as the linking word, nevertheless.
Okay.
What is said next is likely going to be contrary or justifying something, might be opposing. So we'll give you some examples.
Yeah, here's an example, guys. Write this one down because you really want to be able to use this. I've never liked ice cream. That being said, I definitely want to try the new ice cream parlor in town. Nice.
Right. So
Who
you're
could ever
almost
say that?
contradicting yourself a little bit, right? That being
Yeah.
said, I do want to try that new ice cream place.
Who would ever say that they don't like ice cream? That's
I
crazy
actually
to
don't.
me.
It's not my favorite. I know, Lindsay. We've never had this
I don't
conversation.
know if we can work together.
I
don't know.
I love it.
How do you
I
not
would
like
choose
ice
like
cream?
cookies or
Oh,
cake
Michelle's the
or
same way. Yeah.
any day, but I don't hate it. I don't like soft serve at all. It has to be like hard scooped and really solid and cold. As soon as it gets a little bit melty, I'm like, throw it away. I don't want it. I don't want to see it.
Consistency? Some people have
think
problems
so.
with consistency. They really get freaked out by different consistencies.
And
Yeah.
it has to have lots of like nuts, like crunchy stuff in it.
Oh,
If it's
yeah.
just smooth, no, it's a pass for me.
Oh, God. That's why. Well, I agree.
know.
I kind of agree with that. I would never pass up any kind of soft serve, hard serve, but I prefer the hard serve Ben and Jerry's, right? Because it's got the
Yes.
big chunks, like the brownies, the cookies. It's like
if
you're
I'm going to
eating
eat ice
cookies.
cream, I would much prefer a little pint of Ben and Jerry's as opposed to like a cone with soft serve. No.
Yeah. They actually were really revolutionary in the ice cream industry. They were the first ones that did that put the big chunks of cookies and brownies in their ice cream. They did a lot of
They
interesting
almost
things.
sold me on ice cream because with all the chunks and stuff, I'm like, okay, now it's more like a cookie. It's a cold cookie.
Exactly. So they get both markets, right? Well, Michelle actually has the same preference, so you're not alone.
funny.
She shared that with our listeners before as well.
Hilarious. Okay, I have another example here. This is great. I should warn you that she's quite blunt. That being said, I think you'll really like her.
Yes.
I can see this, right? Where we almost sort of give a warning about someone. They're about to meet someone. Okay, I'm going to warn you. But that being said, she's awesome. You're going to like her.
Yeah. Do you tend to do this if you do you have any friends who can be a little blunt, maybe abrasive,
I
unaware?
think it's about me more.
Oh,
I think people will say about me, they'll be like, she's a little much. She's kind of high energy. But that being said, she's very fun.
She's a little much. Good topic for another day. She's a little much. Good expression. Really good chunk
Yes,
that
we
we could talk
should.
about another time. Guys, hit follow on this show right here to get that episode. Okay, so number 2, the second meaning is now that I've said that. What do we mean by this, Aubrey?
Yes, exactly. Right. So we're just sort of saying, I've said something, and now that I've said that, we sort of have a mutual understanding a little bit, right? So
Okay.
here's an example that will clarify. If I said, I'm the best at this game. That being said, I better not lose, right? It's like, now that I've said that, now that I've bragged, now that I've set myself up like this, I better not lose.
I know.
right?
Or there's the whole beginner's luck thing. Like when for the first few times I went axe throwing, I had some beginner's luck and no one would think it because I'm so small and I'm right next to
Kept
like
hitting
an
the target.
Yeah, I kept on doing it well, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's good at this." And then I was terrible after that, and I kind of felt weird. I set the
so
standard
funny.
thinking I was good, but I didn't know what I was doing.
That's funny. I have never been axe throwing on purpose because I'm so bad at cornhole. Sometimes I'll throw the beanbag and it'll just go straight up and like behind me and on a roof. I think I would kill someone if I try to go axe throwing. I think it's just better to not. Just don't tempt
I've seen
fate.
a lot of similarities between you and Michelle. It's really funny because she shared with us when she does skee ball that the ball
Same.
usually goes onto the other
Yes, that
track.
absolutely happens to
Yeah.
me. I do feel like at least once I accidentally like threw it behind me. At
Okay,
least I
well,
didn't
we have
hit
to make
anyone.
sure we don't have an All English game night
No.
with physical
No axe
games.
throwing.
Scary. Gosh, I'll stay away from you guys. All right. Okay, Aubrey, what would be the third reason we would use this?
All right, we use it to mean now that we understand each other. So this is more than just like, oh, maybe I've bragged, I've said something and you know, now it's more like we have this understanding. So here's an example. The deal with this client is extremely important. Having said that, I hope everyone can bring their A game today in the meeting, right? So I've made something
Yes.
clear. Now that I have told you something and we all understand, we're all on the same page, then I
Yeah.
would say, having said that, this needs to happen.
Yes, I love it. It's so natural. It's so useful, right? It's very useful,
Yes.
again, to transition between feelings. The feeling of what you just said versus what you're going to say now. So good.
Yes, so interesting. And it is so useful in business English, right?
Yes.
You might say, like, we don't have a lot of room in the budget. That being said, please plan the best event you can. If you're planning like a holiday party, right?
Right. And another example, I realize there are a lot of agenda items, but we need to get to all of them. That being said, let's get started.
Yes. So we
Okay.
have both there, right? Where one is more like, okay, now that we have this understanding, we got a lot to cover. Let's get
Okay.
started. And the other one, the first one is more like, now that I've said that, I hope you see that
Mm.
even though we have this small budget, we want a great party, right? So they're similar, for sure, similar. There are these three different ways that you can use these phrases. And do keep in mind, we often will just shorten it to, that said.
Okay,
Instead
good.
of now
That
that
said.
I've said that, right? I would just be
Yes.
that said, I better not lose.
Yeah, that
That
is
said, I
supernatural.
hope you all listen.
Yes, I
Yes.
love it. I love it.
Just to
So
save
natural,
time.
guys, if you use this. Well, let's show our listeners how we do it in a role play. So here we are waiting in line at the grocery store. All right.
Yes. Can you
Yes.
believe how grocery prices are going up? These strawberries are so expensive.
So true. That said, the strawberry shortcake you're making will be worth it.
Good point. It is going to be scrumptious. Having said that, I better not mess it up.
No pressure. No pressure.
Right. So you did in the role play, you see Lindsay does that where she shortens it. She just says, that said, the
Right.
strawberry shortcake you're making will be worth it.
Yes, exactly. So that's the first place we used it here, right? That said. And then you said, what,
Yes.
Aubrey?
Having said that, I better not mess it up. So this is that. Now that I've said that, now that I have, set the bar really high on your expectations, then I would say, having said that, I better do a good job. It
Right,
better be
exactly.
delicious.
Yeah, for me, strawberry shortcake has nothing on a good chocolate ice cream, as I said before.
It depends
No
on
way.
the short. My mom makes a mean strawberry shortcake with fresh strawberries from their garden. It's so good.
Yeah,
But I
and it
don't know if I've ever had it anywhere else. I would never order it at a restaurant ever.
Does she make the Cool Whip? It's not Cool Whip, right? It's
Oh yeah,
the cream. Does she
whipped
make
cream.
It,
Yeah,
does
she makes
make it from
homemade
home?
whipped cream,
Okay,
and it's
that's
a
big.
homemade cake.
Yeah.
And then strawberries fresh out of the garden that she mashes.
Yes. Yeah,
Chef's
and
kiss.
I love it. And I love that you said the word scrumptious. That could be a good bonus for our listeners today. What does that mean?
Just extremely delicious, like decadent. Always, we use this mostly for
decadent.
desserts, things that are sweet.
Yes, I love
I
the
would
word
not say
decadent.
vegetables are scrumptious, even if I think they're delicious.
Yeah, exactly. That's a little too. I mean, vegetables can be really tasty, but they're not scrumptious.
They're not
I think of cupcakes. I think of cake type stuff when I think of
Yes.
scrumptious.
That
Okay.
Spongy. We feel it's like that spongy feel of a cake or a cupcake.
Yeah, exactly. What's the takeaway for our listeners here? This is a really useful phrase.
Yes, it's so useful chatting with friends, coworkers, language exams, like I was saying with IELTS. Practice using these guys to spice up your speech. It really adds interest.
I love it, guys. Don't be afraid to use that. You've seen a few different ways. You've probably heard it before. You've probably always wondered how to use it, and now you know. So now go out, listen for it again, and try it. Try to use
Yes.
it that first time, and then you'll get that confidence that you're looking for. So good. And the connection, right, Aubrey? That's always the
Yes.
key. Connect your ideas, connect with other people, help them to understand what is the next thing you're going to say. Like, what direction are you going in with what you're saying
Yes,
now? That's kind of what this
exactly.
does, right, Aubrey?
Right? Instead of using just simple sentences,
Yeah.
you're creating ideas, more complex sentences, and linking them together in
Yeah.
a way. You're right. It builds connection. It builds that bond with someone
Yeah.
by connecting your speech, right?
Right. And it lets people kind of focus on the overall idea of the story you're telling, not just the disjointed pieces, right? So then if we want people to look beyond our mistakes, we need to tell that greater story, right?
For
So this is
sure.
how we do it. So good.
So,
So good.
interesting. This was a
Yeah.
great episode, Lindsay. Thanks
was.
for chatting with me today.
All right, Aubrey. Thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.